Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Jay. Today we're going to be analyzing one of the biggest fights of the year. It's coming up this weekend, and I just really want to go over it. There's two great fighters. You have Saul Canelo Alvarez. We have Gennady GGG Triple G Golovkin. So we're gonna go over a little bit for this fight. I truly love boxing. It's one of the sports that I follow. So first, let's look at Canelo. Let's look at Saul Canelo Alvarez. He was born in 1990, so he's 32 years old. So age is a big advantage that he has. He's been fighting since 2005, 15 years old when he turned pro. He's 5'9", and has a record 57 to 1 and 39 knockouts, so a 63.93 percentage. His reach is at 70, which is basically what GGG has. If I'm not mistaken, GGG is around the same reach. So it's not going to be a big factor for this fight. I think he's a great fighter. He has already established legacy. He's one of the greatest in Mexico. Undoubtedly, nobody can question that. Of course, he's been a little controversial, bouncing between weight division, weight classes, and whatnot. But let's not take away from Canelo. He's always going to be Canelo, probably number one fighter in Mexico at the moment. So let's look at the key for victory. I think if he really wants to win this fight, he needs to be active. He needs to throw more combinations. One of the things he relies a lot on power punches. And there's no question he has a lot of power. We've seen what he's done to a lot of fighters. He knocked out a lot of fighters. We've seen how he did touch muscles just from the triceps of other fighters. But he needs to throw combinations if he wants to win. He cannot rely just on throwing one punch at a time. He needs to go to the body. He needs to capitalize. The GGG is 40 years old. So he needs to go to the body, invest on the body, and then go to the head, try to go for the knockout. He needs to avoid just throwing power punches, as I said earlier, because he relies a lot on that. And one key to victory, he needs to use the jab. He needs to use it just to keep GGG away from him, because GGG has a lot of power, but also as a rangefinder. Throw the jab and then throw the power punches behind it. He also needs to be consistent. He takes rounds off. Every now and then, there's rounds he only throws a few punches. And he needs to learn from previous fights. And what do I mean by this? In the past, you saw what happened on his last fight. Really, the jab is what took everything away from him. The other fighter was using the jab, and Bivol, and he was never able to take off that jab. That jab was completely killing him. So he needs to learn from that. He needs to use the jab. He needs to establish the jab and then throw combinations behind it. Also, another thing that he needs to do is not to get frustrated. On his last fight, he truly got frustrated, and I think once he got frustrated, he was unable to adapt to the fight. He was unable to change. He was unable to capitalize on his power. He was unable to capitalize on his boxing skills. And basically, he was his own worst enemy. And that's not taking away anything from Bivol. He's a great fighter. He uses his height, he uses his reach, he uses his jab, and that's how he won the fight. He established himself as a great fighter. But I think Canelo needs to learn his previous fights, work on his cardio, throw combinations, go to the body, be active, and use this jab. So let's look at Gennady GGG Golovkin. 40 years old, as I said, was born in 1882. He's 5'87", 5'8", so he's going to be a little shorter than Canelo. His reach is 70.08, so basically there's not a big difference on the reach. On his record, this is one thing that I want to pay attention, 41, 1-1, and I didn't put the number on knockouts because I wanted to emphasize on this, 83.7% knockout. So he's the greatest knockout artist. He definitely has a lot of power. And that's one thing that's going to be a piece of evidence. I think he can capitalize on his natural power to try to win this fight. I think it's going to be really hard for him. He's a great fighter, one of the greatest out there. He has a legacy already. For a lot of years, no one wanted to fight him. I think his previous fights with Canelo have been really close. I think he could have won those fights if I had invested a little bit more on the body. We're gonna look at the keys to victory in a little bit, but overall, I think it's gonna be a great fight. And I think Gennady, if he takes advantage of a couple of key elements, he can actually win this fight. Given that Canelo is coming from a loss, and he might be a little bit too anxious, make a few mistakes. So let's look at the keys to victory. I think, as we saw in the previous fight, he needs to establish the jab. If he's able to use the jab and establish the jab and keep throwing the jab, I think this can frustrate Canelo, and it actually can be a very long night for Canelo. He uses that jab to keep Canelo away. Just keep tapping him, tapping him, frustrate him. Don't let Canelo think. Because once you let Canelo think, he starts thinking, he starts breaking you down, he starts thinking, he starts analyzing you and gets in the fight. But if you use that jab, you won't let him stay in his game. He needs to use ring movement. If one thing you guys notice on the last fight, Bivol kept moving and moving, frustrating Canelo. Canelo was never able to find his range. And then he had the jab being used against him, and that totally took the fight away from him. So GGG, he really needs to come in great condition. He needs to move, keep moving, keep frustrating Canelo. Use the jab. I think one key element for GG to win the fight: go to the body. Canelo tends to tire it out. All of us that follow boxing know that Canelo gets tired. He does get tired. Second half of the fight, normally he's tired. So if GGG invests with the great power that he has to the body, I think on the early rounds, and then continue this throughout the body, I think this can make a huge difference and he can upset Canelo. I really do think that if he just goes to the body, he can go. Don't hesitate. Let your hands go. In other fights, like he will get close to Canelo, but he wouldn't let go. And I understand Canelo is really powerful, but he needs to not hesitate. Just let your hand go, throw combinations, go to the body. And lastly, stay away from the ropes. You don't want to see in the ropes and then have Canelo in front of you, because then he will start throwing combinations. He will start going up and down, and it can be a really, really, really long night for you. So I really hope he stays away from the ropes. Fight outcome. I think age is going to play a huge factor. I do see Canelo winning this fight. I see that GGG is going to gas out in the later rounds if he doesn't invest in the body again. And I do see Canelo winning. I think Canelo will capitalize on this, pick up the pace on the second half of the fight, and then win. I don't see him knock him out GGG, but I do see him winning this fight. However, GGG can change this by going to the body in the early rounds, staying on the jab, work behind the jab, go to the jab to the body, jab to the chest, up and down, throw combinations, and obviously he can win this fight. I think Canelo will win this fight via decision. I don't see Canelo knocking out GGG. GGG is a great fighter. He has a good chin, has a lot of power, so obviously I see Canelo respecting his power. However, this is just my prediction. I can always be wrong, and GGG can upset this fight. We saw against Bivol. Canelo, everybody thought Canelo was going to win, and you guys saw what happened. So I think it's going to be a great fight regardless, and best of luck to both of them. So where do Canelo or GGG go after the fight? I think Canelo needs to fight Bivol again. And the reason I say this and what he's going to win out of that, he's going to show us that he can adjust, that he can not be more dimensional, rather just one-dimensional fighter. He can, adjust, learn from his mistakes, have better cardio, use his jabs, and win. If GGG wins this fight, I think he should retire. Go out on top. Go and enjoy your millions. He has nothing to prove. Both of them, they don't have anything to prove. I think that if GGG wins, he should just retire. Take your millions, go and enjoy retirement. He has nothing to prove on the sport. He has done a lot for the sport of boxing, and I think it's time for him to go. I mean, defeating Canelo, one of the greatest boxers to ever step into the ring, it will definitely add a lot to his legacy. Again, for Canelo, I think it's a little harder for him because a lot of people, even though he has a lot of followers, there's a lot of people that question Canelo because the way his rehydration clauses, his weight, his troubles going down on weight. So, he's kind of caught up in between that. I think he wants to establish and really gain the respect of a lot of people that doubt him, is to go and try to bench his loss against Vivo. Since nobody expected Vivo to win, I think really that's where he needs to go. If he can get past him, then we'll look at the options. But I think if he wins this fight, he really needs to go and fight Vivo. In the post conference when he lost against Vivo, he said he wanted to fight him again. I have a lot of respect for Canelo. I have a lot of respect for any boxer that gets on the ring. It's not easy to do. Anybody that has ever stepped into the ring and take punches for a living, we have to respect that. So best of luck for both fighters. And I'll be doing the post fight, and we'll see. I could be wrong again. This is just my opinion. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for all the boxers that gives us great fights, and we'll see what happens. Best of luck for both fighters, and we want them to be healthy and give us a great show.